In a world where trouble is inevitable, understanding how to prevent pain from becoming trauma is crucial. This is the Road to Happiness podcast, where we apply neuroscience and biblical wisdom to help you navigate life's challenges and find true joy. We're your hosts, Josh and Cassie Spurlock, and this is Understanding and Healing Trauma, Faith, and Neuroscience. Thank you to our sponsor of the Road to Happiness podcast, My Counselor Online. Okay, Josh, so what is trauma? We hear that word thrown around a lot, but in a clinical sense, in a way that we can articulate what is trauma and how does it develop?
Yeah, it's a good question. Trauma, is getting a lot of airtime these days, and that's great that we would be more trauma informed as a society and have some understanding about what that means. But it's not always well defined. And sometimes we think, well, does trauma mean like pain and suffering? Are they synonyms? Do they mean the same thing? And so, yeah, a little clarity could be helpful, right? So, trauma is a description of how the nervous system responds to an experience. That the exact same experience for one person would be traumatic and for another person not be traumatic. And that we can respond differently to it. Because what determines whether or not something becomes traumatic for a person, whether pain and suffering becomes traumatic, is whether or not the experience overwhelms the person's nervous system, their capacity to regulate what their experience is in their nervous system, and their ability to make sense of what it is that they're experiencing. And so if a person experiences pain and suffering that overwhelms their nervous system, and they don't have the capacity to organize or make sense of what it is they're experiencing, that then stores in their nervous system as traumatic. However, a person can experience pain and suffering, does have the resources to be able to regulate their nervous system and make sense of what it is they're experiencing. For that person, that experience is not going to store traumatically. So for them, it's not going to be trauma. So pain and suffering aren't inherently traumatizing. Our capacities to process an experience determine whether or not it's traumatizing or not.
When you talk about regulating the nervous system or having a dysregulated nervous system, like what does that actually look like? What does that actually feel like?
Yeah. So our nervous system, we have all of our senses and data is coming into us all the time from our different senses, and our nervous system is organizing and making sense of the information that's coming in and processing it. And experiences become just part of our story, part of our memory, and get recorded. But then when something is frightening, that is, or painful in a way that kind of is more than we can tolerate and on our own, we become dysregulated. And that can be emotional pain as well as physical pain, because those things register the same in our nervous system. They like light up the same parts of the brain, emotional and physical pain. And so that's what we're talking about happening when a person gets dysregulated.
So what do we need when we get dysregulated? Because that's going to happen to all of us.
Mm-hmm.
So give us some tools so that we can navigate our lives when that does come our way.
Yeah. So what we need is really the same thing that we've like always needed. Like when we were little kids, we got injured, fell off our bike, fell out of a tree, something like that. We got hurt, we got scared, that we ran to our primary caregivers, ran to mom, ran to dad, and, and we were looking for comfort because God designed us to co-regulate, that is to have our nervous system be regulated through the comfort of others. And so as we hold hard things together with others, they become less hard. And it regulates our nervous system in a way that helps our full brain come back online. Because when we're dysregulated, part of our brain shuts down, we go into survival mode, fight or flight, and it's, unhelpful. But when we get regulated, we get kind of soothed, calmed down. We're able to have the rest of our brain come back online, which gives us our full capacities to be able to navigate a situation and to really make sense of what it is that we're experiencing. And so we still need that as adults. We still need to be able to turn to trusted people who love us and lean into them and hold hard things with us in a way that helps us regulate that, as opposed to try to isolate, do it on our own, shut down, and kind of stuff things away, which maybe allows us to survive a situation, but it doesn't cause it not to store traumatically in our nervous system or bring about the negative consequences that come from navigating life that way.
First, I want to say that feels really vulnerable.
Yeah, feels that way
And
because it is.
and second, there is such talk in our culture about being responsible for yourself and making sure that you are holding your own good boundaries and um, showing up like a grown up and not expecting other people to, I don't know, even like come to your aid or, just get your stuff together, get it figured out, and then just move through life. That that feels maybe like contrary a little bit to what you're saying here. And how do we know which we need to do in whatever situation we're facing when we're feeling dysregulated? Do we just gin it up and figure it out? Or is it a time where we should seek bravely the help of others? And if we are supposed to seek the help of others, how do we do that?
Yeah,
We say,
so
hey,
many
come help me
questions,
regulate
right?
my nervous system.
Yeah. So as long as we have had good regulating experiences as a kid, it kind of comes naturally for us. And so about 50% of the population has had that and has what we call secure attachment style, where we, believe that people are going to be there for us in a reliable way and that we can turn to them in our distress and be comforted. And the knowledge of that experientially that we carry around with us in our heart and our nervous system actually serves as an internal resource that's regulating for us, even in the absence of another person, because we carry those experiences of being regulated around with us, inside of us. But for about half the population, that was not their experience. And we learn to navigate life where we can't count on people to be there in the way that we need. And sometimes that means we kind of shut down and pull back and don't turn to people then in an avoidant attachment kind of style. Or we get in this super anxious, clingy place where we like grasp for people desperately out of that fear of not having folks with us and can actually drive folks away um, from doing so. And then this part of there's about 5% of the population that has been really brutally traumatized in life by people who were supposed to be safe with them. And for them, there's this crazy making experience of really needing and wanting the comfort and support of others and being terrified of it at the same time, because what should have been safe was actually dangerous for us. And so, uh, if you're struggling to turn towards people, it's generally because of some wounds that you carry around in your story that make that hard to do so. And so being able to recognize that maybe there's some healing that needs to take place in order to be able to reach for folks in the way that you need. And maybe you can find that in friendships in your life and through some self-help journey. And maybe some professional counseling is the way to kind of identify those obstacles and find healing and work through them.
Yeah. I I can't control how other people will show up for me when I come to them dysregulated and say, uh, I might say something like, I just need to vent about something, or, it might come out in some other way. But what if I'm with somebody, they notice I'm dysregulated, then they can show it for me. But I can learn how to show up for the people in my life when they're dysregulated. So, how do I do that? I want to be a great friend, a great um, person that people can turn to and know that I'm a good resource for helping them navigate things that are hard.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what being part of what being a good friend is about, right? And sometimes, this isn't a rule across the board, but sometimes women are better at doing this than men. A lot of times because of just culturally what we grow up in, that men aren't given permission to really attune to their own emotional experience or the emotional experience of other men and to support each other that way, that we're kind of told that we're not supposed to feel, not supposed to need those things. And so it can be a little bit more of a struggle to do so. But when we're healthy and we're leaning into those things and responding to others that are reaching for support and help, and we can start with and just helping them feel safe in the world, you know, and helping them feel safe emotionally and physically with us. That way, kind of look after their practical needs. If they're going through a major like natural disaster type crises or otherwise, making sure the basics of food, water, shelter, those kinds of things are covered. And then encouraging them towards self-care practices like healthy eating and exercise and sleep and journaling and kind of connecting with friends and processing what they're going through instead of isolating. Like those are just like basic self-care and basic need type things that have to get covered, and then you can go a little bit deeper if you have the kind of relationship with the person where they're willing to do that with you.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking about, in a natural disaster type situation, like just looking at the most basic things like, are you safe? Do you know you're safe? Do you need me to come get you? Like there are certain things that I can do as a friend. Like I can literally go get that, in some situations, or I can help them find resources. I can come alongside them in whatever way so that they don't feel alone. And as you're talking about um, just, them having somebody, I'm just picturing me saying to them, like, hey, I'm so glad that you would share this with me and
Mm-hmm.
that we could be here together. And that it's very, I'm glad I get to be on your team and in your corner. And that feels, I'm grateful to be able to be a space like that, a safe, good space for my friends and the people in my life when they're struggling with these huge challenges. Sometimes I've have friends that are in these spaces, and um, I'm observing that they are not taking good care of themselves. So, like, how do I help them understand that good self-care is going to give them the fuel, the resources that they need to navigate these hard things without it being pushy? Like, I want you to eat because I love you, because your body needs fuel. Like How do I do that without being that friend?
Hey, sometimes you are just kind of pushy, because you love, right? And so you're like, hey, this matters. It's important. I'm concerned about you. Yeah. And depending on your temperament, depending on your relationship, that may sound different. It may sound different with you and a girlfriend and that than if I'm talking to one of my buddies about it. I'm like, hey, are you taking care of yourself? Because you don't seem like you're taking care of yourself here. And I care about you and your family needs you to take care of yourself. So, if you're not sleeping, let's figure that out. Go talk to a doctor and figure out what they can do to help you sleep. You're not eating, eat. I know you don't feel like eating, but let's go to the gym together and having some accountability. And there's you know, sometimes it's tough love. And if you've got the rapport and you've got the relationship with the person, and they know where it is, the heart that it's coming from, then you can challenge a little bit out of that place of love. Rather they're navigating a natural disaster or an unnatural disaster. I mean, sometimes we're dealing with hard stuff from work. We're dealing with difficult stuff in our family. We're dealing with the, illness of a child or, conflict in our marriage. And there's other kinds of, you know, crises that we experience other than just like natural disaster crises. And then all of these things are true in all of those different scenarios. Like these are just the basic needs of human beings for navigating hard things in life.
Yeah. So my friend comes to me, they're totally dysregulated. Before I can talk to them about nutrition and sleep and all the things, exercise and rest and fun and journaling and social connection, these very powerful things that they need. How do I help them regulate so that they can just share their story and so that I can help them process through that? And what does that processing with them look like in a way that's actually effective and not just me, being like, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the answer is really starts with just creating a safe space for them, right? Which in part is facilitated by the relationship you already have with them. Really, they experience you as a person who's safe to talk to and helping them know that it is safe by just explicitly saying so. Like, hey, I want you to be able to talk to me about these things, care about you, care about a relationship. And so, you know, there's confidentiality and just slowing down the process. Like when somebody's like really worked up, just be like, hey, can we just take a second? Take a few deep breaths here. Slow things down a little bit. We use our voice, our eyes, our gentleness, our show of care, kind of slow things down, help them slow down, and we can help them connect with what it is they're experiencing, regulate that nervous system, help them begin to put language around their experience, inviting them to share into their story and how they're being impacted and reflecting back what it is you're hearing with good reflective listening. So it helps them organize kind of their experience by hearing themselves say the words and hearing you reflect back what it is you're hearing. All of that really, really helps kind of create a coherent understanding of what they're going through in a way that, you know, helps make sense of it and helps bring some clarity about maybe what they need in a given situation.
Yeah. And I love the idea of getting to validate their feelings. Yeah, that does sound really hard. I would feel the same if I was in that situation. And I love the opportunity of getting to, help them notice and name the things that are sad and are hard about the situation and recognize that grieving those things is a legitimate part of the process, an integral part of the process for
Yeah.
healing and moving through it.
Yeah, for sure.
These kind of topics bring up so many questions. And if you have a question, you can submit it to us. We would love to answer your question in a future episode. You can submit your questions. Check out the link in the show notes. The Road to Happiness podcast is sponsored by My Counselor Online, a leading provider in faith-based mental health. Sometimes people engage in professional counseling because they're going through one of these seasons in life that are really intense, and they just need someone who can help them navigate their way through it. At other times, people engage professional counseling to become the best version of themselves. Professional counselors have specialized training to help you see your blind spots, which by definition you are blind to, and to identify areas where a little growth would go a long way to help you fully thrive in life. Whether you need some help overcoming a challenging season or you're looking to maximize your God-given potential, the Christian counselors at My Counselor Online are here to support you online, worldwide. Schedule a free, no obligation matching meeting today to learn more. And if you do decide to sign up, mention the Road to Happiness podcast to receive a discount. Okay, we have covered a lot of ground today, Josh. Give us an overcap. An overcap, an overview, a recap? Yes.
Recap,
Give us one of those.
nightcap, something
Yes.
like that.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we're walking away understanding a little bit more about trauma then, and how do we help prevent pain and suffering from becoming trauma by leaning into relationships that can help us regulate and help us kind of sort through the experiences of our life in a way that help us organize it, make sense of it, help us grieve the losses that are a part of hard things that we navigate in life, and how to support others by encouraging them in basic self-care and kind of helping them have a safe space to be able to talk through the hard things that they're dealing with in a way that helps them move through them instead of get stuck in them. And yeah, that be in it together.
I love that. I love the opportunity to be in hard things together and to support my friends and the relationships in my life. Well, we're grateful that you guys all tuned in today. For more information on the subject, check out the supplemental materials provided in the article that goes with this episode. If you've gotten value out of our time together, please like and subscribe and maybe share it with someone else you think would enjoy it. That could be fun, friend things to talk about. Thanks again for being part of our community, and we'll see you again soon.